All right, welcome back, everyone. We're diving into something today that's kind of like essential. If you want to have a smart IT setup, you got to understand virtualization.
Yeah, it's a game changer.
So we've, really dug into a ton of info to kind of break down how moving over to virtual infrastructure gets you real benefits. We're talking big cost savings, better efficiency, and even way stronger security.
And we're not just going to skim the surface. This is a real deep dive.
Exactly. If you're someone who wants to cut through all the fluff and really get what virtualization is about, like the core power of it, you're in the right spot. This is like the express lane to what matters.
We're connecting the dots between the tech and the real world good stuff, like what you actually get out of it.
So, first things first, when we say virtualization, what are we even talking about?
Good question.
Our sources say it's basically making digital versions of your actual physical IT stuff.
Right.
Servers, storage, even your whole network or operating systems, all just existing as software.
Yeah, that's the core idea. It's like you're not tied to the physical hardware anymore. So you can have multiple computing environments all on one physical machine, and those are what we call VMs, or virtual machines.
And the thing that makes this even possible is the hypervisor. Sounds kind of sci-fi, doesn't it?
A little bit, but it's actually the key piece of software. The hypervisor makes and manages those VMs, and each one runs on its own, with its own OS and apps, just like it was a whole separate server.
So it's like the hypervisor is a super smart resource manager. It's giving out processing power, memory, storage, making sure everything runs smooth without clashing.
Exactly. It's like a traffic cop for your digital stuff, making sure everything flows nicely.
And because you can have all these separate VMs on just one physical server, that's where the magic happens. You get so much more out of your resources, way more efficient.
Huge difference. You're not running a bunch of physical servers that are only being used a little bit. Instead, you pack more onto fewer machines and use them fully.
Okay, so that efficiency boost is like the foundation, right? It leads to a bunch of benefits. One that our sources keep bringing up is flexibility, like being able to move quickly. How does virtualization help with that?
Okay, so think about setting up a brand new server the old way. You got to buy it, install it, all the cables, the operating system. It takes forever.
Yeah, days, sometimes even weeks.
But with virtualization, you can have a new VM running in minutes, just through software. And you can move these VMs around between servers, even copy them super easily.
So that speed is a huge advantage if you need to scale up quickly. What about in the long term? How does it help with flexibility then?
Well, it lets you adapt. Like if suddenly you need a lot more computing power, you can just give more resources to your VMs or spin up some new ones. Same thing if you got to do maintenance or upgrades. You can move those running VMs to different physical servers without shutting anything down. That's what we call live migration. And it's huge for keeping things up and running.
So not just faster setup, but also easier to manage and keep things running smoothly. Now, security is always a big deal. What happens on that front when you switch to virtualization?
Well, one of the cool things is that virtualization builds in isolation. Each VM is its own little world managed by the hypervisor. So if one gets compromised, it's much harder for that problem to spread to others on the same hardware.
Oh, so it's like they each have their own little bubble containing any potential issues.
Exactly. And it makes disaster recovery a lot smoother, too, because VMs are basically just files. You can back them up and copy them easily to different places. So if a whole system crashes or there's some big disruption, you can get those backups up and running on other hardware way faster than you could with physical servers.
So it's like a safety net. You can bounce back way quicker.
Oh.
And what about just the day-to-day management of all this? Does it make things more complicated for the IT folks?
Honestly, in many ways, it makes it simpler. You manage everything through a central software platform. So you see all your VMs, how they're performing, allocate resources, and do all the admin tasks all from one place.
Okay, so one central control panel for everything.
Yep. And updates are easier, too. You can often just update the hypervisor, and that takes care of all the VMs under it, so you're not patching each one individually.
That sounds like it saves a lot of time and hassle.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the big benefits that everyone's after, the stuff that really makes a difference. Starting with reduced costs, because everyone wants to save money, right?
Absolutely. And that's where consolidating servers, like we talked about, really pays off. Less physical servers means you're spending less on hardware right from the start, but the savings go way beyond that initial purchase, too.
So it's not just the upfront costs of the servers themselves. What else is there?
Think about the running costs. Fewer physical servers mean you're using less electricity, so your power bills go down. They also don't generate as much heat, So you need less cooling, which can be a big expense in data centers. Plus, you need less space for all that equipment, so you might even save on rent or real estate costs.
Oh, right, because you're not taking up as much space in the data center.
Exactly. And don't forget about maintenance contracts and the time your IT team has to spend managing all that hardware. That all gets reduced too.
It's like a domino effect. Savings in so many different areas. Another big advantage we keep seeing is a boost in overall efficiency and productivity. And it's not just about deploying things faster, right? What's the bigger picture here?
For IT teams, it's like a whole bunch of tasks get simplified and automated. Setting up new servers, giving them storage and network access, updating software, moving things between servers, it all gets way faster and easier.
Streamlining all those essential tasks.
Right, and that frees up the IT team from all that routine stuff so they can focus on bigger picture things, things that actually help the business grow and innovate.
So it's like instead of just keeping the lights on, they can actually contribute to the company's strategy.
Exactly. It's a more strategic role for IT.
Now let's talk about uptime. Keeping systems running smoothly is crucial. We talked about live migration for planned maintenance, but what else helps with keeping those systems up and running?
Well, being able to move those VMs between hosts without disrupting anything is huge. And if a whole site goes down, you can quickly switch over to your backup because it's so easy to replicate VMs to a secondary location.
So it's like having a backup plan ready to go at a moment's notice.
Exactly. It makes your IT services way more resilient.
Okay, let's go back to security for a minute. It seems like there's more to it than just that isolation we talked about earlier.
Yeah, you can actually put security controls right at the hypervisor level. So you've got these policies that apply to all the VMs running under it, creating this consistent security layer across the board.
So it's like having a security blanket over everything.
Right. And you can take regular snapshots of your VMs, which is like taking a picture of them at a specific moment in time. So if something goes wrong, a security breach or a bad update, you can just roll back to that snapshot, like hitting rewind. It minimizes the damage and helps you figure out what happened.
So it's both a safety net and a detective tool.
Precisely.
Flexibility seems to be a recurring theme here. What makes virtualization so good at helping companies adapt and change?
It's incredibly agile. You need a new server, boom, spin up a VM in minutes. You don't have to wait for new hardware to arrive. You can also easily move VMs around to balance the workload so everything runs smoothly. And if you need more or less capacity, you can scale your virtual environment up or down really easily.
It sounds like it gives you a lot of control.
It does. You can really fine-tune things to match your needs.
Okay, let's recap some of these core advantages just to really drive them home. Reduced hardware costs are a big one.
Huge. You need fewer physical servers, so you spend less on hardware. And because you're using your existing servers more efficiently, you can use them for longer before you have to buy new ones.
And less hardware means lower energy consumption.
Definitely. Fewer machines using power, less need for cooling. You'll see that reflected in your energy bills.
And of course, less physical stuff means less space needed in the data center.
That's right. Less square footage needed, which can mean significant savings, especially if space is limited.
Let's talk about disaster recovery again. It feels like virtualization really changes the game here.
It does. Virtual machines are like self-contained units. They're easy to replicate, back up, and restore. So you get consistent recovery points, and the whole process of bouncing back from a disaster is way faster.
And backups and restores are a lot easier with these VMs too, right?
Absolutely. VM snapshots are essential here. They're like time capsules, allowing you to quickly revert to a previous state if things go wrong, whether it's data corruption or a cyber attack.
Leading to that much faster recovery time we talked about.
Exactly. You can have those VMs replicated at a remote site. So if your main site goes down, you switch over to the replica with minimal downtime.
It's like having a spare tire ready to go.
Pretty much.
And it even makes testing your disaster recovery plan easier, which can be a huge headache.
You can clone your production VMs to create a separate test environment, so you can test your failover and recovery procedures without messing with your live systems.
So you can practice without worrying about breaking anything.
Exactly.
And all of this leads to lower disaster recovery costs overall.
Yes, you need less hardware at your recovery site, and the whole process is more streamlined, so you save on both upfront and ongoing costs.
All right, one final benefit to highlight: better workload management. How does virtualization give companies better control over how their resources are being used?
Well, you can really balance things out. You can run more applications on fewer physical servers so you're not wasting any capacity. And you can move VMs around between servers without any interruptions so you can make sure critical applications always have what they need.
So it's about optimizing what you've got.
Exactly. And of course, VM replication for off-site disaster recovery is a key part of this. It ensures that your important workloads are always protected.
It sounds like it all adds up to a more responsive, efficient, and resilient IT infrastructure.
Absolutely.
Now, before we go any further, we want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, StoneFly.
StoneFly is a real pioneer in data management and infrastructure solutions. They specialize in SAN, NAS, a whole range of storage solutions, as well as backup and disaster recovery, cloud integration, and they're doing some really cutting-edge stuff with AI and security technology.
You've worked with their solutions quite a bit, haven't you? What makes them stand out?
They have this impressive suite of data services. For example, they offer immutable snapshots, which are basically tamper-proof records of your data. Super important for protection against ransomware.
Oh, that's crucial these days.
Absolutely. And they've got AES 256 encryption, which is like top-of-the-line encryption for your data, both when it's just sitting there and when it's being moved.
So your data is protected whether it's at rest or in transit.
Exactly. They also have really flexible replication options, both synchronous and asynchronous, so you can tailor it to your needs. And they've got intelligent tiering to make sure your storage is performing at its best without costing a fortune. Plus, they've got smart flash caching to speed things up and really comprehensive ransomware protection for your volumes.
It sounds like they've got all the bases covered.
They really do. And they have this patented immutable and air-gapped repository, which is an extra layer of security against all sorts of threats. Plus, their management platform is really intuitive. You can manage up to 128 nodes, even across multiple locations, from a single interface, thanks to their Compass mirroring technology.
So if any of our listeners are struggling with data protection, need to scale their storage, want better performance, or are thinking about upgrading their storage, backup, disaster recovery, hyperconverged, or even their server infrastructure, StoneFly has got some really compelling solutions at competitive prices.
And their support is excellent.
Yeah, we've heard great things about that. You can reach their team at sales@stonefly.com or check out their website at https://stonefly.com/company.
And they've got a fantastic promotion going on right now. You can get immutable and air-gapped backup for just $10, which is a steal. Or for only $700, you can get a 70 terabyte backup and disaster recovery appliance.
Wow, 70 terabytes.
And it's expandable up to 4 petabytes. Plus, it integrates seamlessly with top backup solutions like Veeam, Rubrik, Commvault, and Site Recovery. It's also got advanced AI features and object lockdown technology to really lock down your data against ransomware.
So it's a really powerful solution at a great price.
It is. If you're interested, definitely reach out to sales@stonefly.com for more details.
Okay, as we start wrapping things up here, I think it's important to talk about best practices, especially when it comes to security in virtualized environments.
Definitely. Virtualization comes with a lot of built-in security benefits, but you still need to be smart about how you manage it.
So what are some of the essential things people need to keep in mind?
One of the most basic things is to control access to the hypervisor. Only authorized administrators should have access to that management interface.
It's like locking the control room, right?
Exactly. And you always want to make sure both your hypervisors and your VMs are patched with the latest security updates.
Keep everything up to date. That's Security 101.
Right. And then you want to have strong authentication, authorization, and accounting mechanisms in place so you know who's accessing your virtual infrastructure and what they're doing.
So basically, really tight control over who can do what.
Exactly. You also want to be proactive about security audits and vulnerability scans. Regularly checking your virtual environment for weaknesses can help you prevent problems before they happen.
It's like getting a regular checkup at the doctor.
And just like we talked about with disaster recovery, make sure you're backing up your VMs regularly and replicating those backups off-site. It's essential for protecting against data loss, especially from things like ransomware attacks.
It's like an insurance policy for your data.
Pretty much. And finally, make sure your IT staff are trained on the specific security risks that come with virtualization. They need to understand how to manage those risks.
So education and awareness are key.
Absolutely.
Now, one company that keeps coming up in discussions about virtualization backup and recovery is Veeam. What can you tell us about how their solutions work in these virtualized environments?
Veeam is definitely a leader in the backup and recovery space, particularly for virtual platforms. They support a wide range of hypervisors like VMware vSphere, Microsoft Hyper-V, and Nutanix AHV. One of the things they're known for is their image-level backups, which basically captures a complete snapshot of a VM, the operating system, applications, everything.
So it's like a total system image.
Exactly. So if you need to restore, you've got a complete and consistent recovery point.
That must give a lot of peace of mind.
It does. And they also have application-aware processing, which ensures that your applications and databases are backed up consistently and can be restored without any issues. That's crucial for business-critical applications.
Right, because it's not just about getting the data back, it's about making sure everything works properly.
Exactly. And they have this feature called Instant VM Recovery, which lets you start a VM directly from the backup storage in minutes. So if a VM goes down, you can get it back up and running incredibly quickly.
That's impressive.
It is. And if you don't need to restore a whole VM, they also offer file-level recovery. So you can grab individual files or folders without having to restore the entire machine.
So it's flexible depending on what you need.
Very. And of course, they support VM replication for high availability, so you can have a replica VM ready to go if your primary one fails. They also have great support for cloud environments like Azure, AWS, and Google Cloud, and they have tools for moving data between your on-premises systems and the cloud.
So it sounds like they've really thought about the needs of companies that are embracing virtualization and the cloud.
They have. They're all about making backup, recovery, and data management efficient, reliable, and easy to use.
Well, as we wrap up this deep dive, it's clear that virtualization offers a lot of potential for businesses that are looking to modernize and optimize their IT.
It does. Consolidating your resources through virtualization makes everything more efficient, more flexible, and more cost-effective.
And being able to quickly spin up new resources and scale things up or down as needed is a real competitive advantage. Companies can adapt quickly to whatever comes their way.
And we can't forget about the improvements to business continuity and security. Features like live migration, VM snapshots, and that inherent isolation between VMs really make a difference.
So even though there might be some upfront costs involved in moving to a virtualized environment, the long-term benefits in terms of performance, productivity, and risk reduction are significant.
Definitely. It's a smart investment for most organizations.
So here's something to think about as we leave you today. Virtualization is all about taking physical resources and making them more abstract and flexible. What if we could apply those same principles to other parts of a business?
That's a fascinating question.
It makes you wonder how much more efficient and adaptable organizations could become if they embrace those core concepts beyond just IT. That's something to ponder as you navigate the future of your business. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.